Good afternoon, greetings everyone, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to, we're streaming live from the United States of Africa Facebook page and also the YouTube channel. My name is Angela Asante-Amal, your hostess today, streaming from Ghana. And I welcome you to today's discussion about why the United States of Africa, we have called for an extension for the nomination deadline for the position of African Union Commission Chairperson. There is a petition that we have issued. We have formally written to request that this deadline, which is believed to have expired on Monday, the 14th of September, but that be extended to allow a lot more capable, candidates from across the continent to come forward. So that's the essence of our discussion today. I am joined already by founder and president of Global Pan-Africanism Network, and also our Honorable Benjamin Anyaje. I hope I've pronounced that. Anyagri. I hope I've pronounced that properly.
Anyagri.
Who's the executive director. Anyagri. Thank you, sir. Who is the executive director of the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute. So please give a warm welcome to our guests today. And before we get into the discussion, please just drop us a link and let us, or a comment, and let us know where in the world you are joining from, and if you're watching live or on replay. So, Brother Daniel, would you like to say something before we get right into the discussion?
Thank you very much, host Angela. What I'd like to say is that to remind Africans is the importance of the African Union. It's a very important Pan-African organization in the unification of Africa and also the unification of people of African descent around the world. And what we are seeing is a situation where the current AU Commission Chairperson is going to run unopposed in the coming election. And this is something that we are against. And personally, in order to ensure that we protect the African Union and ensure that it upholds the democratic values and principles, Global Pan-Africanism Network wrote a letter to Cyril Ramaphosa, the current AU Commission the current AU chairperson, asking him to extend the deadline so that we can get more able and more qualified candidates to occupy the position for the African Union. And we also started the petition in collaboration with Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute and many other Pan-African organizations. They are against having a situation where the AU Commission Musa Faki runs unopposed. So I'll hand it over to Benjamin so that he can introduce himself.
Welcome, Mr. Anyagri.
Yes, greetings to all those viewing this important engagement. We of the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute believe that the continent of Africa, and for that matter, the establishment or creation of the OAU by our founding fathers was for a purpose, and was basically to work towards seeing a new Africa, to work towards seeing an Africa where the African will see himself as capable of solving his own affairs and to uplift the image of the African personality. We as an institute, looking at what is happening within the corridors of the AU, are not happy. There are two important things that all of us must begin to interrogate. Number one, democratic practice at the AU. And number two, the ownership of the African Free Continental Trade Area. We believe that the democratic practice at the continental body as we speak is unfair, undemocratic, and unaccountable. We believe that the current position of allowing the topmost AU commission to go unopposed is unacceptable. Interestingly, in 2016, when the nominations were opened, the then chair of the AU said because they had 3 nominations, it wasn't good enough, and that it was proper that they extended nomination to encourage more people to apply. That was done. That came how His Excellency Musa Faki was part of that elections. And for that elections, interestingly, it took 3 different elections for the current AU chair to emerge. For the deputy position, Ambassador Kwesi Kwete had 45 votes out of the 55. And within the rules of the AU, you needed 2/3 to be declared winner. So that happened in 2016. So why is it that today, the principle that was applied during that period, this time around, is being fractured? Why should that position go unopposed? It's unacceptable. It's undemocratic. Many African heads of state, when they hear of troubles or any military intervention in any part of Africa, they quickly go in to say or preach restoration of democracy. If that is the case, how come that at the top, democracy is not practiced? It is not fair. And so we think that it is time that the opportunity is extended and that all those who are qualified should be allowed to apply. And that is what we are all in for. And we thank our brother, the Global Pan-African Network, that together with other Pan-African organizations, like the All African People's Organization, we are together pushing that the right thing must be done at the AU.
Absolutely. Thank you. So as I said before, we have written on behalf of the United States of Africa to call for the extension to allow over 1 billion, 1 billion qualified Africans an equal opportunity to contest for this vital top job. I mean, that's a lot of people to give an opportunity and have it so closed down. So there is a petition, and we have written. So worst case scenario, Mr. Anyegwe, worst case scenario, if our efforts fail and the deadline is not extended, we're not able to, make a space to allow more people, we would say more qualified people to go for the position. How do you see things playing out, given perhaps our overall view of the current effectiveness of the African Union?
Sister Angie, thank you very much. To allow that position to go unopposed in itself is an insult to Africans. Does that mean that we don't have capable men and women? That is number one. Number two, in answering your question, we are still going to continue to use legitimate means to ensure that the voice of the people are heard. The voices of African people are heard. We are not going to sit down, because when you talk of democracy, it should be for the people. It should be for the citizen. The AU should be for the people. The AU should be owned by the people. The AU shouldn't be owned by certain individuals, some few individuals, a minute, insignificant individuals. We will apply all the available means to ensure that the right thing is done. It is not like yesterday, when at the AU level or at any sub-regional level, anything could be done just like that. This time we have reached a stage, just like our forefathers reached a stage and fought for the independence, the political independence of our countries. The same way we have come within this period to ensure that the right thing is done. We all have the right. We are born Africans. When we die, we are going to be buried here. The resources of Africa is for all of us. And for that matter, we are going to use legitimate means to ensure that the right thing is done. And thank God that today we have so many conscious Pan-African establishments who agree that Africa must change. Africa is not for sale. Africa is not for sale. Africa cannot be for sale by a given insignificant few on the continent. We will not allow it. We will not allow it. We must do what is right for the sake of the future generation of Africa.
Yes, I agree. There's nothing I can say that disagrees with the viewpoint that you're making. I mean, the fact that we have so many other people who could potentially go for this role, and the thing is, what is the rush or the urgency? As in, so this deadline has been closed. I'm not sure how many other Pan-African or other organizations are calling for the extension as the Institute is, as GPAN is. But clearly, there's been a lot of rumblings for probably a long period about how the African Union is operating and whether it actually meets and addresses the needs, the interests of African citizens wherever they are. So yes, I echo that Africa is not for sale. One of the candidates that whether she's actually made it in, as we are aware, is Ambassador Arikana Mboekwa. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, we know that there are issues there. GPAN has made its position clear of where it differs with her perspective on the issue of the compensation of landowners in Zimbabwe. But that aside, in terms of Ambassador Arikana Mboekwa being able to go for this position, the chairperson commission, do you have any thoughts about that? Brother Anyagwe, we can't, Mr. Anyagwe, we can't actually hear you. Can everybody hear Mr. Anyagwe? I'm not sure if it's coming from my side. Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. Can everybody hear Mr. Anyagwe? I'm not sure if it's coming from my side or his side. If you can just drop a comment if you can hear Mr. Anyagri. Let's see here. Okay, yes. No one can hear you at the moment. Let me take you off and I'll bring you back on and see if that fixes the sound shortly, okay? Bear with us, family. Technical issues, we have them, but apologies. So let's just see if we can fix this quickly. And while we're waiting, you know, what are your views? Thank you for sharing your views so far. How this deadline could have come and gone so quickly. And yet we have many other, you know, serious contenders, if you like, or at least some people who should be given the opportunity to come forward, because it seems that there have been many concerns, complaints, you name it, about whether the African Union is effectively, legitimately representing the interests, the needs of the African people. And so we must have an opportunity to put other people forward who are going to do that role if, in the largest, you know, to the largest extent, we have lost confidence in their current operation. Mr. Anyagri, can you yourself? Are you able to unmute yourself? Oh dear. Okay, whilst we try and work on that, Mr. Anyagri, I would recommend that you actually come off the platform altogether and come back in, okay? And I'll re-add you to the stream, okay? Meanwhile, let us move on with the discussion, and please do ask your questions, whether it's directed at one particular person, a general one for us to discuss, or any of your comments. You know, each one teach one. We're all learning here. There's no monopoly on information, so please do share. How many of you agree with this comment? Some of the leaders are contending with forces that are far mightier than them, which rise on the mass ignorance of Africans in general. If such a leader does not know, he gets a silent murder. Oh, sorry, if he does not kowtow, he gets a silent murder in the name of cancer or some other Western disease. Therefore, the best channel is through the people. They can't kill us all or threaten us all. I absolutely agree. We ourselves have forgotten that, yes, we have leaders, but we are the ones that put them in their position. So without our voice, our votes, our support, they cannot continue doing what they are doing. Okay, so I would like to introduce another of our speakers who is joining us today, Mr. Julius B. Akoto, who will come hopefully and share his views with us on the need for us, our petition to extend the nomination deadline for the African Union chairperson position. Welcome, Brother Julius. Can you please unmute yourself?
Hello, good afternoon.
We'll just wait for Mr. Kutu.
Hello.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you. So just joining in the discussion, we've heard from Mr. Anyagri as to the importance of us really getting this extension for the nomination deadline for the African Union chairperson position. I mean, what are your thoughts? Why is it so crucial that we get this extension and allow other participants in to compete for this position?
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. Essentially, we need to go back to time immemorial in 1963 when the AU was OAU then was formed, and it's progressed now to what we have as AU. Essentially, it was about unionism. The framework for it was about unionism and how leaders come together with one accord for the progress of our country, of our continent, and the individual countries. Albeit, some scholars also posit that the entire framework of the organization was fermented. The idea was fermented by the CIA, but some will call this as a conspiracy theory. Yeah, but then it also brings to mind things that we should consider as we march on as a people. So essentially, the point I want to raise is calling this not to a halt, but for timing, for the time to be allowed for us to have a coherent idea, a coherent and a logical body of ideas to bring on board people that would, be in the helm of affair and in the position for not only the expressions of these people's idea, but for the people's needs and people's want to be met as a continent. And that is where our quests as a people lie. Essentially, governance is not as people over the years have done it, or the continent have framed governance in the continent. First and foremost, the anthropological question we need to ask is, who are we as a people and where are we going? What are the metaphysical systems that we need, or the systems in general that we need to put in place in order for us to organically work together? And when we phrase our discourses, our governance discourses within the polity of organic governance, then we know that all of us must put our shoulders together. Just like when in Islam people are praying, they stand shoulder to shoulder. And that is what we are emphasizing. Governance is about the people. It is not about leadership. Often where people, often in Africa, we have the misgovernance of our people is that they put themselves proud to the people. It's just like putting a horse before the cart when it should be the vice versa. So it is important that first and foremost, leaders consider the plight of the people, and that should be the major reason why they should come into governance. It is about the people before other things come, the natural resources, etc., etc. But very often in Africa, the leaders come, and it is also from us, on one way or the other, we also ought to be blamed, where most often we fancy praising our leaders. But it is about us, it is about the people. And when people are the focus or the fulcrum of the helm of affair, then governance will be, proper. It is also in this way that in African philosophy, you get to know that years ago, it was the gods that chose the leaders. It was not the leaders that chose themselves. Okay, so it is about the people, and we need to emphasize on the people. So yeah, why do we need to restrain this and postpone the date? Because the elections is about the people. It is not about the leaders. It is about the people. So let's reframe our working toolkits and emphasize on the people. What do the people want? And why are they demanding that? That is what we are calling on the AU chair and all his entourage to consider. It is about us, the people. It is not about them, the leaders. All right. Okay, so I'll pause here in a while if there's any other question or anything.
Thank you, Brother Julius. There was a comment here which I think picks up on what you are saying, but just wonder if you have any further thoughts on this. That, yeah, I think the AU does not have interest in the African people. It only follows instructions from the EU, and the African leaders need to address this issue to better their countries. But not only that, for Africa as a whole, more action needs to be taken and major issues need to be addressed. That seems to be in line with what you are saying. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, this is an old anthropological ancient anthropological question. Governance is about the people. When you miss the people, you miss the mark. All right. So in the ancient days, and you look at ancient texts or sacred texts like the Quran, the Bible. For example, if we illustratively to bring Solomon to the point of what I am saying, he was trying to answer that puzzle that would enable him govern effectively. And that is why anthropologically, even it was pointed out that he had knowledge about the trees, the cedars that grew in Lebanon, and even to the animals which he spoke about in the books of Proverbs. One who wrote that part of this is for theological debate. But essentially, governance is about the people. When we miss the people, we miss the mark. And that is our plight and the conundrum of governance in Africa. They miss the people. All right. They don't put the people as the jigsaw puzzle for their solutions. If they put the people as a jigsaw puzzle, then we wouldn't be in this, a quagmire that we find ourselves. And to stress on the people, you find out that entirely in Africa, you see this in the fractional pattern in which we weave our cloths. For example, in Asante, among the Ewe of West Africa, among the Igbo of Nigeria, they weave the kente cloth because in the Akan language, we say that in other words, we weave people, all right? We weave people together. Okay, so the collectiveness of our being and of our ise and our essence is very important. If we miss that landmark as people in the helm of affairs, it doesn't matter how good grammar we raise, how constructive we become in terms of our presentation, we miss the mark. Africa, that is why Marcus Garvey always emphasized Africa is for Africans. All right, so he had it in mind that it is about the people. It is about their ESSE, E-S-S-E. It is about their essence. When we miss these two things, governance doesn't become palatable. And to juxtapose it, you will see this in the European construct of how they go about their governance. For example, the Americans frame their society as the American people, the French people, the German people, right? So it is about time that we learn that diction and inculcate it into our governing principle. It is about the African people, it's not about the leaders. Most often we inverse the equations of governance. Okay, so it doesn't become equal. What happened is that there's a stroke, all right? And that stroke tells us that it's not even, it is not equal. And we can also learn this from the four signs of arithmetic. It's either we are adding or subtracting, or we are dividing or multiplying. And we must multiply and add as governors, as leaders of our society. Okay, all right. So if there's any other thing I would like to answer, I'll pause here for now.
Thank you, Mr. Koto. Yes, there's this comment that I'd like to hear your thoughts on. That for everybody else, I feel apart from advocating for democracy in the AU, we must also advocate for age balance in the organization in order to tap into fresh thinking. We continue to have the same age group at both national and global level representing us, then we young people remain mere whistleblowers. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree in total to what the question now is posing. In the sense that look at I would like to illustrate and make an analogy. Look at the birds, even the plants. They learn from this analogy, where it is that it is always about cultivating and nurturing the next generation into the next phase of life. And when people don't do that, even at the family unit, at the communal living, or at the state living, when they miss that mark, the next phase of life become a question mark for the society and for the world at large. And even animals do not behave to this extent. What they do is that they groom and nurture their kids and their kin or their kids to the next phase of life. I think that bringing on board the younger generation makes them learn and to unlearn. Okay, so two things. They learn first what is at stake for them, and they unlearn some of the mistakes that have been made by the older generation. But often when they are neglected and left behind, then we have it is like when they come on board, they have to, now go into find out the nuances, the nitty gritty of the issues. And that it is like it leads to weariness of life because your entire lifetime you are trying to find out the basic rudiment which we should have learned at a younger age. All right. And we see these once again, what St. Paul would say in the Bible: when I was a child, I thought like a child. When I was an adult, I did thought like I am thinking like an adult. In other words, as a child, there are certain things we ought to know, or is to know. So the philosophy of is was we must learn to play it well. When do we ought to know, and when is it? Okay. So this dicey cornered world in which we find ourselves, where our African philosophy is not properly learned, but often misapplied in terms of knowledge, where it is like women are cats behind us, they are behind the scene, the youth are behind the scene, is actually an European construct, because years ago it used not to be like that. It is the European who perceive us as kids, and he feels that we must always think at that shallow level. So for me, my emphasis is that yes, the younger ones must be held arm in arm. All right. It's just like the kangaroo. You see the kangaroo, it always puts its little ones in its porch and it's jump with it. It's teaching it the art to jump. If you don't learn, you can't do it. And knowledge is about mastering. When the Europeans came here, they mastered our idea, our way of life. Okay, everything about us, and they chronicled it and used it against us, either for good or for bad. So we can't leave our little ones behind. It is imperative, if not instructive, for us to do that. And for me, I buy into this new concept that is in Ghana, where the younger ones are, like President Atamils did when he was in power, though he was criticized strongly, but he felt that the younger ones must be mentored. We need to even go beyond mentoring. It's about life. We need to teach the younger ones that it is in the animal kingdom. You see, they always teach their younger ones they initiate them into the next phase of life. Okay. And human beings, we must not neglect that aspect of life. It is very, very essential. It is part to the ecology of our existence. And if we leave that, we would have it tough. And that is the basics of leadership crisis in Africa. because they find it very hard to leave the old syndrome of godfatherhood, godmotherhood, etc. So we need to do a lot about leadership, and I really, I'm in tandem with the person who posed that question, and thanks to him for posing the question. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Koto. I think I agree. I agree with a lot of what you say, and I would add to that comment that the need for us to embrace the youth, allow change the age demographic, and then also there's the gender demographic. If you're usually here on Wednesday evenings, we talk about I host a Women in Political Leadership series, and the fact that we have an underrepresentation of women in these leadership positions, so that we don't have balance. We don't have enough representation of the people who usually inherently are the ones that look after and address the interests of lots of other people, including the children. So the youth are not represented or not much. The women are not represented or not much. So that whole organization is not really a true representation of the motherland, as vast as it is and as diverse as the people that we are. So this closing of the deadline, just like that, and we look at how the current constitution of the organization is bound, I guess it was not being said, but it's bound to repeat previous mistakes and doomed to failure, surely, if we haven't at least even be able to represent the true interests of the citizens, and ensuring that the different parts, the young, the women, the different parts of the whole family are represented. So thank you for the comment. Thank you, another colleague, Yohani Imani, to join us to give his views. So, Sakoto, you are welcome to join us. We'll continue the discussion. And for anybody joining us right now, we are talking about the need and our petition to extend the nomination deadline for the African Union Commission Chairperson position, deadline having expired just this gone Monday, 14th of September. So welcome, Brother Yohani. Welcome to the platform, welcome to the discussion. You've been following what we have been saying. What's your take on what is happening now and how crucial it is that we do extend this deadline to enable other parties to contest for this position?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate. I came a little late, but it's all good. Good morning. I don't know if it's good morning there. It is good morning here in Washington, D.C. As you mentioned, my name is Yohani Paulo Imani, and I'm so great to be with you. I just have a few comments I want to make when it comes to the African Union. I don't know if you all remember me talking about it before. You cannot build a building on wrong foundation. When I say wrong foundation, is that from the beginning, the African Union, it is wrong foundation from day one. I don't even know why a lot of people trying to put their efforts on kind of reshaping African Union, because it was founded under the basics of not uniting Africa. I want you guys to really remember this. Always, anytime you talk about African Union, what we have in African Union, it is the outcome of people failing to actually unite. And that is where the African Union came from. Hold on for a second. I seem like I'm having a problem with my camera. Give me 1 second, please.
So we're just waiting for Brother Yanni to fix his camera. But what I was hearing was that he was talking to us about actually the real basis on which the African Union was formed. Is that right?
Yes, it's back. Yeah, so the African Union was formed after the failing of uniting Africa, actually. We had the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. The Monrovia groups were the ones who were interested. No, hold on. I think it's Casablanca group were interested in uniting Africa now. That's how Kwame Nkrumah was saying. Whereas the other group, which is the winner, which give us the both of the African Union, were saying that no, we don't need to unite. We can just collaborate. Okay, so if you are as a Pan-African like I do, or Africanist who really fight for the unity of Africa, you should not actually think of shaping African Union. Instead, you should be looking towards getting rid of the African Union. Do you guys understand my point there?
Sure, we can hear you clearly. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was allowing you to continue what you're saying. We're here in the background. We're just allowing you to continue, and then we'll come in and invite comments.
Okay, yeah. So from that area of Africa Union, both which was based on the idea of denying Africa to unite or denying bringing all African. That time it was not even many countries as it is today. Until to this point, African Union has actually show or demonstrate the idea of failing not only to unite Africa but to divide Africa. Okay, so in many areas you can see the birth of new nations in Africa on and on. In situations that are African Union, if it was a really African Union, it could have stopped it. And also the idea of not interfering in issues of countries. It's another thing that if African Union is there to be African Union, it should have right to interfere to get in any private or in one of the countries. If, for instance, if there is a conflict between one country and another one, if the really African Union was what we want, it should be able to go there and fix the situation. But African Union does not have authority or power to actually be involved in any given country in Africa. Now, just as you were saying about it, pushing or postponing, or I don't even think it's postponing. I think it's to terminating the election or the nomination of the chairman for the African Union. I think this current chairman, he's taking direction of his countryman Idris. Idris of Chad, who been in power for quite a minute. So we will not be shocked if this become like one of those Cameroonian president or Guinea president or Uganda president or Eritrean president, who I don't know if they are president or kings, but who be there forever. So it can be the direction where they are taking, because it's what they are doing in many our African countries. Our leaders are there like king / president. So yes, I do oppose the idea of kind of pushing so that he can be there forever. But I also do oppose the whole idea of African Union, because that's not something we really need, and that's not something will ever help as Africans to actually make any change. Someone is sending a comment. Did you see that? I definitely agree with Imani. The concept of the existence of the AU is current formed, how it was initiated and founded. Definitely the essence of the idea of unity. Yes, it's defied the idea of unity, the essence of the idea of unity. African Union is not there to unite Africa. I think that every African and everyone who is in African diaspora need to understand that. But the worst part of it is that it does not provide its own resources. What I mean is that the African Union does not pay its own employees. We can even go over and figure out why it's in Addis Ababa, and Addis Ababa is kind of one of the most difficult places to actually access. You know, if you want to access Ghana, or you want to access Rwanda, or you want to access Gambia, or you want to access Nigeria, or most of every African countries actually are more easily to be accessed compared to Ethiopia. You know, so yeah, I do disagree with the idea of this chairman to push to almost. It seems like he won't stay there on power for quite a minute, for more longer than what it is, which is kind of behavior of our leaders in Africa. But I don't even think if you look what happened between what happened to the ambassador Dr. Arikana or Mama Africa, you can definitely see that there is injustices going on in the African Union, and that those power came from the donors, people who give African Union money, you know, because I was doing research on the budget, how much they use each year and who give the money. And I found out that all the money came from European Union, United Nations, United States, China. You know, there is no such money is contributed from African nations. There is nothing there. So put it that in consideration, you're gonna see that since the money that is put in African Union is just came straight from foreign aids, okay, while our nations should have budget to contribute to the building of African Union, if they try to see trying to build African Union like the European Union, they should do what European countries are doing to contribute or to build the European Union. Whereas we, as the African Union, how it does, it's just begging, it's just receiving the donations, and whoever gives donations is the one who who make choices or who make decisions what to happen and what to not happen. In that way, Mama Africa was actually pushed out from African Union because of France. France does contribute a lot of money to African Union. Someone actually said that the France has a Senate representatives in African Union. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but honestly, it does. France and the other European nations has a lot of influence in African Union, which they should not do because they are not Africans. And this also brings back to the idea I always fight for, the idea of us saving as African Union saving us. Why do they use French? Why do they use English? You know, why did they use languages that are not African? You know, those languages are not African. Our ancestors did not speak French or English or Portuguese. The only time they speak Portuguese, English, and Spanish, those languages came to us to colonize us. Those languages came to us to cut the arms of our hands. The German, don't forget about Germany, who actually did genocide in Namibia, you know, the first concentration camp in Namibia, which a lot of people don't even talk about this. This was the first one Holocaust ever happened. It was in Namibia. So why do African Union if you go on the page, why do you see those languages? Why don't you see our own languages? I'm fighter for Swahili for Africa. I don't know if you guys know that. We don't need English there. We don't need French there. We don't need Portuguese or Spanish there. Those are not our languages. We speak them because someone enforced us to speak them. We look at it, even when you speak it. By the way, I'm just saying this. It's not a war, I believe. Okay, but when we speak it, maybe the spirits of our ancestors, they raise. They be like, man, what are you doing? Why are you speaking this language? These people kill us, you know. So I don't see any reason why they will present all those languages on top there. Why in the European Union? Why there is no Swahili there? On top of the page, why on the website of European Union? Why there is no Swahili there? Why? You know, so I think that African Union, I don't know why you guys will keep kind of trying to massage around it. I don't see any idea why. We don't really need it at all. It's just a failing from the beginning. It was formed by leaders who do not want to unite Africa. And it is a failing from the beginning. We don't need it. We need to do something. We need to make up something that will actually either challenge it or remove it. Okay? Because the reason why it's acting like that, for all this year since 1963 until today, the African Union has not even built one high school or primary school or even one highway or even one road. Tell me where is the road said, the road, African Union road. Nothing. There is a Gaddafi school in Kampala. There is a Gaddafi road in Dar es Salaam. There is things that people has done, but nothing has been done by the African Union. The only thing they do, they will go and take pictures and put the t-shirts. People put t-shirts on. They take the pictures and put on YouTube or somewhere, and then they get the money. And sometimes they even write proposals. And that's all they do. So who in the world is going to be supporting something like that? And why do we have to keep pushing it? Because since 1963, if you haven't done anything. Just go home. You know, what do we expect from Africa? Anyone? What do you think African Union will ever unite Africa? No, nothing. They will never do that. So, by the way, thank you so much. I don't have a lot to talk about it. It's just a shame on our leaders who still trying to actually remain on power on 21st century. You know, really like.
Sure.
Yeah, for this too long, it's just like it's unseen. I think this should be done in early, like maybe back in days, but not now. Yeah. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yohani Paulo Imani. I'm activist. As I said, Swahili for Africa is a movement. We are moving forward. We don't want Africa to unite under English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, or Arabic as well. Even Chinese too. We don't want those languages in Africa. We just want to unite under Swahili as official language or working language in whole Africa. And unless we realize the importance of language for our unity will never come to the table. It will never happen. That's all I can possibly say in this morning. Thank you so much. If there is any question, please, I give microphone.
Thank you very much, Brother Yohani. You covered a lot there, and there's probably a conversation in about 3 or 4 things that you said separately. But I want to invite Brother Mr. Koto to, if you have any comments or further, any comments to add or any questions for Brother Yohani on this subject. Mr. Koto, can you please unmute yourself?
Hello.
Okay, you're unmuted now. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so our brother Paul Imani for all his brilliant comments and submissions. But essentially, these are the sentiments out there on the streets. So I give him a thumb up for speaking the common man's language. All right. This is not something that majority of Africans who are in the corridors of power in the academic institutions of the universities, etc., speak. But the common man, the average person on the street, that is how he speaks and that is how he feels, the disappointment. Yeah, so from the very beginning, but we can be labored, we can be laboring this point for ages without and becoming a society in Africa, which often some of us refer to as a speakly society. So the African has been constructed always to speak, but not essentially to look for solutions and strategies to come out of the web of the trouble that confront him. If you look at our institutions of learning, the universities, this is how it is. They are made to be absorbing and imbibe in other Western ideologies and philosophies. So we always, take from the West. We don't construct our own view. And often when we are speaking as Paul is doing, that is how, we give our masters the hegemonic, web to still strike them all. So we have all these, we have fundamentally a fault line, which I spoke about at the beginning of my remark, that the Organization of Africa, as it was then known, was built on Organization State of Africa, was built on a fault line. The fault line was that we see those who stood for that which was aspired by Marcus Garvey and the Rastafarian Society or the Rastafarian movement in the early part of the 1800s, which was a United States of Africa. Nkrumah, upon reading Marcus Garvey's text of Marcus Garvey's ideas and philosophy, began to give practical intent to that and theoretical basis of it. And that is what culminated in the formation of the AU, which was a huge debate between him and others, Julius Nyerere being a typical example. So Nkrumah wanted a United States of Africa and not an organization or a union as we have it today. So that was the fault line. Nkrumah wanted all African one, all African united. So the battle for them at the point when they were attaining independence was how do they marry independent to interdependence. All right. So if these two questions were simultaneously reasoned out and in total solved, we wouldn't have been here today. Because Nkrumah had read in the literatures of the Americans how America became a United States of America. And that was what, in tying that to Marcus Garvey's quest, and that is what Nkrumah wanted, and a United States of Africa. But Nyerere and others opposed it. But you realize that later on, by 1985, prior to Nyerere's demise, he confessed that it was actually a bid. The Americans sold the idea to him to confront Nkrumah when he wanted the United States of Africa. So they eventually, Nkrumah had to compromise for an organization instead of a United States. So this is where we are. But the question then is, their generation is gone. What do we do in this next phase? What are the strategies? What are the approaches? What are the spiritual essence that will guide us into those things? It is not far-fetched. So when we talk about, we'll be rambling, going around in circles and be wondering if we don't put our mind to the issues and to answer the question and to address them properly. So we have this conundrum, but what do we do? That is the question, and that is what we should be answering every day as a people. Our leaders are failing us. What do we do? As the narratives have been done. So we don't need to be, laboring the point and be going over and over and over the issues. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is, with all these arguments, we could go in circle wondering with it, is look at when Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966 and he went to join his colleague in Conakry, Guinea. One of the things that Nkrumah became was a co-president. A co-president. Can we imbibe into that article of faith or into that concept and build it in Africa, where every African leader will see themselves as co-president and do away with these barriers and do away with this balkanization of our continent? If we say, or they say they are co-president, then that which happens in another man's country or in one's country becomes a prerogative of all. So all for one, one for all. That is the concept. That is how we should be addressing the thing that confront us. Else, in the next phase, as we are entering now, in the next phase, as is known as the second coming of capitalism, the African does not stand a chance. The probability that not only individuals, like we have in where Africans stow away, where Africans are always at the Mediterranean looking for greener pastures, migration, immigration policies which are against us. Meanwhile, we have the vast land or the vastness of land in the world. It is just because our leaders are not positioned. How do we as a people position ourselves? That is the question we should be answering. Okay, so once they are not seeing the road forward, can we answer the things for them in terms of what we are doing now, for example? So I am subscribing, for example, for that co-presidency, that African leaders should see themselves as co-leaders and not this idea of non-interference. It was put there by the hegemonic, as a hegemonic construct, so that we will forever be where we are. So right from the beginning of so-called independence, to marry the idea of independence to interdependency became a dicey issue for these leaders. And they never solve it today. And there's this generation leading on to the next phase of life. Africa is still in that quagmire. So that is one. The second thing is, what are the spiritual things that bind us? Like I emphasize on the cloth patterns we weave. We weave society. We weave human beings together. We don't govern them. The idea of the European that we govern people is a misnomer. So if we weave together, you see that our cloth, for example, if we take the kente and the pattern in which it is weaving, that is what I pointed out as the African fractional mode of thinking. Fractions. Look at the sea waves and see how the ideas are drawn, even to weave, dresses. This is where we should be learning. These patterns are all over in our dancing. Look at the communal way in which we dance. Look in our funeral processions. Look at the communal way in which we live. So we must come together as a people. If our leaders are falling apart, as Chinyere will tell us, but we must also know that it is not only falling apart that is the essence of what must become part and parcel of the African, but it is also what Aikwe Ama calls the healers. In his book, The Healers, Aikwe Ama challenged the debate of things falling apart, reconstructing it to a new wave of idea that we should be healers in our society. I don't see any reason why I should be called a Cameroonian. Who gave us those names? I don't see any reason why we should be called Ghanaians. Who gave us those labels? I don't see any reason why we should be called Nigerians. Who gave us those labels? So that is my quest. First, second, we must look for the spiritual essence that bind us. What are the spiritual things that link us together as a people? Until we tend to reason, we will still be in this circle of always lamenting, our issues and crying and bemoaning. It will not help us. That is what we should start doing right from the primary, right from the crèche, instead of singing, going to see the Queen's, that day necessary rhyme. How did they even sing it? Going to London to go and see the Queen or whosoever she is. We must start from our nurseries, teach our own proverbs, teach our own, rhymes. That is how we build a nation. That is how we build a people. If we keep on crying, yes, it is true that the AU is established on the fault line. What do we do as an alternative to it? That is where we must be solution-oriented people. These things we are seeing in Africa, other civilizations have suffered it, and the Chinese are a point in fact. When Chairman Mao rose up with the communists, the farmers, the rice farmers of China, and vowed that after 1945, nothing of the rule of the European was any longer going to persist in China. And that was it. How did he build that concept? We must learn from it. So let's stop bemoaning the issues. We will bemoan the issues, we will never find solution to it. However, we should be looking for solutions, remedies. They are there all over. We just need to put our mind to it and it will work for us. All right?
Yeah,
So
think.
Thank you, Rev.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, no, I was saying we're getting towards the end of the program. So please, Brother Yanni, please go in with your final comments and maybe respond to Mr. Akoto. And let's give our closing comments and thoughts to the audience who have been with us until now. Go ahead, Brother Yohani.
Yes, I think I just have to make a quick comment on what he just said. What do we do? Which is the key important, because noticing problems and do nothing about them equals to not noticing them. Yes. So I believe that as this generation, we have the idea what we need to do. Okay. But we also have to watch out, because when you want to do something, as you mentioned, between Kwame Nkrumah and Nyerere and so on, if you put what you want to do or your vision or your plan on the street, especially for something like Africa, you know that you may gonna get a lot of oppositions to extent you may end up to not accomplish what you should do. However, yes, we must take initiatives and do what we need to do to fix the situation. If you have leaders, let's say like in Ghana today, we have a president who was from Japan. Okay, he's a Japanese, he's a president. I know that all Ghanaians will just remove this person off the office. So not because he's the president, because he's from Japan. Now let's say that you have a Japanese president in Ghana, but who's presenting the interest of Ghanaians. Some Ghanaians may say, hey, you know what? As long as he's presenting our interests, we're gonna keep him there. It may not be that easier, but it is possible. So it's the same case we have in many countries in Africa. We are having leaders who are actually from Africa, but they are not presenting any of our interests, which I believe that we should remove all of them, because they are really not presenting our interests. They are not there because of our own interests, and those are the ones who keep us down or keep us walking backwards instead of forward. So the question you ask, what should we do? Let's keep secret. Yeah, I think that's what it is. We should, each one of us, everyone who is African thinker for now, you should be thinking, what do we need to do? How can we fight this? How can we end this? And we think different, okay? We grow up in different places. We have different background. We possibly believe in different religions. which is a blessing to us. We definitely look different, which is another blessing to us. We definitely have different tribes, which is another good blessing to us as well. But all of that we need to start to think, what should we do? And when you found out what you should do, you let me know. Or if I found out something we should do, I let know my fellow Africanists or Pan-Africans. But for now, I think that it is up to us, each one of us, to think, what should we do? And we have to think this careful to look at least maybe in the next 700 years, what should we do that will last longer? Thank you, my friend Akoto Julius. What does Akoto mean?
Should I answer?
Yes. What does Akoto mean?
Well, it's symbolizing something that cannot be broken.
Oh, so it's like
my great grandfather was a warrior in among the Asante, right? And from the warrior, he was made sure to keep the king in position, not to be to die, right? And so he was more or less the one who always had to tell the king where to go and where not to go in terms of being on the battlefield. So it is like he can first not be broken before the king is touched. If he is, then the king will invariably not exist. So that's the meaning of it. And symbolically, that is what the name in the Akan society mean for everybody.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, hoster and Angela. Asante.
Asante Ama, yes. Apparently Asante means thank you in Swahili, right?
Yes, Asante means thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and we thank Mr. Anyagre, who was with us before. Thank you, audience, for watching and for engaging, for all your questions. Whenever I'm here, echoing what our guests have said, is the number one thing we do at all times is to challenge our thinking. We have lots of culture, traditions, and it's true that we don't always need to reinvent the wheel, but it is beneficial for us always to question what it is we're doing and why we are doing it. Because sometimes we just do things because that's the way that they've always been done. But the world is still evolving. The world is still changing. So things that we've always done may not operate. They may not be as effective in the current world we're living in. So we have different perspectives here. Brother Yahani says, actually get rid of the AU altogether, because it's not even a thing that we think is going to deliver what it is that we want. And you have Mr. Koto suggesting or advocating for this co-leader or co-presidency model. Their ideas, we should bring them. I don't think anything should be dismissed offhand. All we know for sure is that what is happening now, what we're living now, is not working. So the more we ask questions, the more we invite answers. And it may not be the first answer that's the answer. And we all have our different answers. My answer for you all is to simply invest in the mothers, the women, as I said, and the land, the physical land, because we are multipliers. Take care of everyone. That would be my solution. That nobody's doing it. The West are not. In the West, they're still crying for equal opportunities, gender equity. So they're not advanced in that sense. But that's my answer. So how many of us can we get to see, maybe have a majority of one answer that we're actually going to try, one possible solution that we're actually going to try? And it shouldn't be that, okay, we must be guaranteed of the outcome before we start. Otherwise, we'll never start anything.
Yeah.
So
just to add something to you there. So often the people must also decide. So, for example, tell me, the Berlin Wall, who were the people who brought it down? Was it the leaders or the people? What happens to our borders? And the people bring down the borders, or they are waiting for some framework of bilateral agreement, European Union, American sanctioning, American appointed. It is about the people. And when that as a focus is lost, that is the end of it. I gave you an issue of the Berlin Wall. The people said the wall must be torn down, and it was that approved by the leaders. Simple. It's as simple as that. So people-centeredness will be the next move in Africa. The differences will be there. I see this, my brother as a Malian. I see her as a Gambian. I see her as a Zimbabwean. All these things are European construct, but the human being is made in such a way that no matter what it is, we can even take the personal level where the teeth can bite the tongue. But they stay together in harmony, isn't it? Thereafter, after the beating. Yeah. So at a point in time, the differences will fade away, right? But let's put our minds to it to make sure that it is done. A generation ago, leaders were seeking for a common language for this continent. Where have we continued from after the Swahili language was advocated for? After 74, that was the end of it, which is disingenuous to our society and to us as a group of people. You get it? Languages are invented when the Dutch and the English and all those people went to South Africa. How did they construct the African? They took the indigenous Africans' language and mingled it with their own language and constructed African and began to teach the Africans in the universities. How can't we do that? What are linguistics professors and linguists doing around? That is where we must start. The solutions are out there. And to my fellow youthful folks, youthful group, stop watching the football and crazy passion for European tournaments. Yes, it is good to have some fun sometime, but when the mind is not put to effective use, our continent will be worthless. It will be more horrible for us the next phase of our life if we don't put our minds to issues critically to resolve them. What happened to our forebears during the transatlantic slave trade will be worse off, in the coming century. All right, so let's stop this crazy thing about football games and all those other games that do not benefit us. Europeans have had more than enough, so they can have those funds. Well and good. Look at the Chinese. They closed their borders for 40 good years, and you see the result of it. Are you seeing it? So please, let's get to it.
Yeah, let me make a quickly comment on football and movies.
Okay, last comment. Go ahead.
It's just like people do not understand, especially my fellow Africans. When we watch movies, we have in mind America that is only found in the movies. These movies are made by high educated psychologists, okay, and politicians, intelligence people. They make movies to actually kind of create image in your mind that will last forever. So when you watch those movies and then the football, as he's saying, you think it's just watching for fun, okay? But honestly, that is gonna last in your mind, in your soul, in your thinking, in all your behavior for the rest of your life. So you should be very, very careful before you watch anything, unless you have examined and know exactly the consequences, or you know what you are doing. Thank you again for bringing that up and the issue of
I think we're having slight connectivity issues on the Ahani side. So
Okay.
left for me to
Angela,
sorry.
thanks for the opportunity to be with you.
Oh,
Thanks so much.
oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so
have
much
done
for
it for
sharing,
me.
spending your time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
See you another
And thank
time.
you,
Bye.
Brother Yar.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you to the audience again for listening. To remind you, we're petitioning, we're strongly advocating that the deadline for the nomination for the African Union Chairperson position be extended to open up to more capable candidates to apply and contest. The link, I'm sure, to the petition has been posted during this live. We'll try and repost it. Whatever you think of petitions, we all have a voice. A lot of us are online. Let's exhaust the measures that we have so that we don't repeat the failures of the past. We must at least try. Otherwise, who are we to sit there and complain whilst we're looking for all these solutions that are around us, but we just haven't worked out how to implement them. So please do sign a petition or anything else you can do to lend your voice to effectively protesting and demanding that the deadline be extended. And for those who are running, in the running, and you really feel that they are different to those who are already making up the makeup of the commission, sorry, do support them. Do support them. There's times when talk is not cheap. It actually does something. So let's do what we can do. Thank you once again for joining us. Please share the video. You never know who you can be planting seeds with. And yeah, let's all do what we can. Until next time or the next discussion, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Angela Santiamar, signing off on the United States of Africa. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mr. Koto.
Bye. Bye.